Welcome to part 2 in this multi-part series on coping with university demands, proven time management techniques. My name is George Marquis, and I'm from the American University in Cairo. We're at part 3 of our session, and for part 3, we're going to talk about what is taking up your time and how much free time you actually have during the week. You're going to need a pen again, or a pencil, and we're going to go to handout number 3, which is a formula for calculating how busy you are. Now, we know that there are 168 hours in the week, and we use quite a few of them sleeping, or maybe some people don't use very many sleeping, but we use them up. There aren't very many left in the week. There are fewer hours per week for studying than you think. We're going to calculate exactly how many you have. Now, this is a formula that's going to give you how many hours a week you're busy during the week. So we're going to start inking again. I'm going to show you how to do this, but then you're going to take a few minutes and do it yourselves. First of all, how many hours of sleep a night do you get, including afternoon naps? Let's say that you get 8 hours per night. So we're going to put an 8 here, and then we're going to multiply by 7 because that's 7 hours, 7 days a week, and we come up with 56. Then the number of hours you get ready per morning. Now, if you don't take a full hour to get ready, you can put a fraction. For example, if it takes you 45 minutes to get ready, that's 75 100ths of an hour. If you multiply that by 7, you get 5.25 hours, which is really 5 hours and 15 minutes. So we continue like that, and we move down. Number 3, the number of hours for meals and snacks, including preparation time. So if you cook, you're going to have to put more hours for number 3. Let's say that you spend, 15 minutes for breakfast, 30 minutes for lunch, and an hour for dinner. That's 1 hour and 45 minutes. And let's say that you also spend half an hour or an hour cooking. So that's 2 hours and 45 minutes per day. So 2 hours and 45 minutes would be 2.75, numbers keep moving, times 7, and then you'd multiply that, get your number. The total travel time to campus on weekdays, including home, public dorm to class. Now, if you live on campus, this is probably very low. If you commute from outside of campus to campus, it might be more. The number of hours per week for regularly scheduled extracurricular activities, club, gym, religious worship, etc. Let's say that you go to the gym 3 times a week and spend an hour and a half. That's 4.5 hours. And let's say that you also belong to a club on campus for let's say you're from Indonesia and you belong to a South Asian or East Asian club on campus, and that meets once a week for 2 hours. So that would be plus 2. So you've got 6.5 hours per week. We didn't multiply by 7 because we're not doing this every day. And you move down the number of hours for chores, errands. So in other words, number of hours you spend doing laundry, going to the supermarket. And then number 7, the number of hours in class per week as a student. That could be, if you're taking 2 classes, maybe each class is an hour and a half. That would be 3 hours, maybe each class is longer, etc. The number of hours in class per week as a teacher, I don't know if that's 20 hours per week, maybe. Number 9, the number of hours per week correcting homework and preparing to teach. So you're planning, maybe that's 15 minutes to half an hour before class, and correcting homework, maybe that's 2-3 hours per week, maybe more. Number 10, the number of hours spent per week with friends or family, going out, watching TVs, going to parties, Skyping, etc. You can include Facebooking here, or Twitter, being on Twitter. You can include talking to your family on Skype or on Google Hangouts if that's what you use. But that number should come here. Then you add up the total. And the total should be in the range of maybe 100 to 150, maybe 155 if you're extremely busy. So let's say I have 148 hours in total. So you want to take the total of this, total from here, this total here, and put it here. And this will give you the remainder, 20 hours. This remainder is what you're going to work with in the handout, in handout number 4. So you need that number, it's important. Okay, so why don't, this number 20, before we finish, this number 20 is the number of hours you have remaining to study. So why don't you figure out, calculate your number of free hours per week, and then continue the video. So put your video on pause now and do this handout, and then come back, and we'll see you in a few minutes. So you've analyzed now, you've calculated the number of hours that you have per week as free time for study. And if you don't have 15 hours out of the 168, you probably don't have enough time for your studies. Because you've got reading assignments and you've got to write papers, you're going to need more time. And don't forget that 15 hours does not mean 15 hours in a block. That includes the gaps between your classes. If you have a class that ends at 11 a.m. and another that begins at 12, and you don't do anything from 11 to 12, that's 1 hour that you've lost. So you may not feel that you have 15 hours even if you do. If you have more than that, but you feel you have no time to study, then you need to identify where you are wasting time. Many students waste time when they have gaps. By gaps, again, I mean 1 hour or half an hour or even more than an hour between events on campus, for example, between classes. That time is usually wasted because people don't see it as time when they have to really be working. They think that this is sort of time to take a break from working. Now we're going to move to handout number 4, making time to study, calculating your study needs. All right, so you need to come up with the number of hours of class time per week. That's the number of hours of you as a student. So let's say that's 4.5. Sorry, I always have trouble with this whenever I do it. 4.5 per week. And then we're going to multiply the above by 2. Why? Because the formula that universities use is that a student needs 2 hours of study time for every hour of class time. That's how faculty schedules are calculated. In fact, that's how faculty are paid, according to the number of hours of classes, and then that's multiplied. That's also how universities receive accreditation. There's a number of hours of class time that must be held, and then that number is multiplied by 2, and that's considered the number of hours that the university is giving to the student, and that is associated with accreditation, with getting 3 credits per course. That means that universities cannot cancel more than a certain number of classes because the minimum number of hours that students meet has to be around 30 for each class. So we're going to multiply that by 2, and that will give us 9. And then we're going to subtract the total in 3 from the remaining total in handout 3. Now remember, I told you that I had 20 hours. So I put 20 here, and I take 20 minus 11 minus 9 equals 11. So I put 11 here, and this I got, remember, from handout 3. That number came. That was my, after I subtracted the number of hours per week that I'm busy from 168, I got 20. So now I have 11. Now my number is not negative, so I'm okay. My number is still positive. I have 11 hours. Now if I were in the minus, then I would have to reduce something in handout 3. I would know that I do not have enough time to study. Okay, so you calculate your own and see what your number comes up to. Remember, this is the number here of hours of class time per week. If that's 8, then this would be 16, and then you would have, in my case, I would still have 4 left. So see what you have, and then I'll see you in the next part. Now we're in part 4, identifying time wasters. Because if we can identify where we're wasting time, we can maybe eliminate some of this wasted time and add to our hours that we can spend doing things that are more productive, like studying. Or going to the gym. That helps you to relax and keeps you healthier. So what are your biggest time wasters? Let's look here. 5 ways we waste time. What are the 5 ways that you waste time? I'd like you to write them out, because in a few minutes we're going to see what the most common time wasters are among students like you, FLTAs, who have sent in their charts of how they spend their blocks of time. So for example, 5 ways that you waste time. You could be procrastinating by going onto Facebook. Let me see if I can get my pen to write. Facebook might be a way you waste time. I don't know, sleeping unnecessarily, chatting, talking to your roommate. However, so write down the 5 ways in which you feel that you waste time, and they can be anything from socializing to sleeping to just doing nothing, just sort of sitting there and daydreaming. And then after you finish that, I'll see you in a few minutes. So put your pause buttons on, write these out, the 5 ways, and then come back to the video. So what is a healthy rate of productivity? And first of all, what does that mean? What that means is, if you put in your schedule that you have to read for 2 hours, you should be reading for 70% of those 2 hours. So why 70%? Well, because it's unrealistic to think that if you have to read for 2 hours that you will not get out of the chair even once during those 2 hours. You may get up to make coffee, you may have to go to the bathroom, the phone may ring and you may answer it, and those things are okay. Those can be calculated into the 2 hours, but you can't go below 70% or else it becomes less productive than it should be. So we're going to see what percentages we're going to see the normal percentages for FLTA students. So I asked you to fill out this form. Remember, this was sent to you by email. And I'm going to show you the results because I got the results back. Thank you very much. And I put them into a chart according to what people told me they did during the periods. So here is the percentage of time spent. You can see that if you for the 16 students that I charted here, quite a few of them were on target for 70% of the time. So what I mean is that these people here, they're okay. They're productive for more than 70% of the time. This person is okay, and this person is okay, and this person is almost okay. But here you can see these people have a time management problem. They're not on task for more than 50% of the time. That means that for every 2 hours that they think that they're studying or doing something, they've wasted more than an hour. That's not productive. So we're going to see what are they doing during this time. This is how FLTAs waste time. So the number of people who answered these questions, you can see here this range. Now it's interesting because some people view going to the gym as a waste of time. So that's basically that's more of a subjective um, call. That's an opinion. Shopping as wasting time. That's also debatable. I mean, sometimes you have to shop. Waiting for the bus is a waste of time. Well, maybe if the bus comes late, it's a waste of time. But if you look down here at these, you can see that the 4 worst ways in which people waste time are all social. In other words, they're in dealing with other people, except maybe for internet surfing, which may involve simply the FLTA and the internet. But phone and Skype, this is socializing. Socializing is here, and social media is here. So you can see the power that other people have, or the effect that other people have on wasting time. In other words, your hardest challenge is to prevent yourself from having to have that social fix fulfilled while you're trying to study. Studying can be uncomfortable sometimes because it's antisocial. If you have to sit and read alone, that may be against your nature. You may be a social person, and it may be hard for you to sit for long periods alone. Well, what's something you can do about that? You can start a reading group. I used to do that. I had students from my class that I would meet with. We would discuss the readings. It was much more enjoyable than reading alone. And other people have different interpretations of the same reading. So you can actually have a discussion that gives you a deeper understanding of the reading. So whenever you can involve other people in productive activities, such as studying, you should. If you're taking another foreign language, you can get other students in the class to come and practice with you. That's another way of being productive while enjoying yourselves at the same time. Now we're going to look at identifying problem areas. We've already identified what some of them are. So the most common problems we have are procrastination, no planning, no prioritizing, poor organization, interruptions and distractions, perfectionism, and not saying no to requests. You might wonder why perfectionism is in this column. But perfectionism can cause you to spend too much time on homework or too much time writing a paper, because you revise and you revise and you revise longer than you need to. You may already have an A from the quality of your paper, but because you're a perfectionist, you spend much more time than you need to just making small changes at the end. And you may not have that much time, because you remember, you need to divide your time wisely so that you're able to deal with many different things at the same time. So now we're going to look at handout 6, time wasters and solutions. And so I would like you to go through this list and see what your problem areas are. For example, is this a problem? Is this one of your problems? You tell yourself, I'll just go on Facebook for 10 minutes and then I'll start studying, and those 10 minutes become 15 minutes, those 15 become 20, and the 20 become 25, and before you know it, there's no time to study. You keep checking Facebook while studying. That might happen. You spend a lot of time in the morning trying to find where things are before you leave. For example, in the morning you can't find your keys, you can't find your wallet, etc., and it makes you late. You might miss the bus because of these problems. So what I'd like you to do is go through that list and check the ones that are problems for you. Here's a problem that I think affects almost everyone. In fact, I've never met anyone who hasn't experienced some form of procrastination in his or her life. Now, what exactly is procrastination? We define it as avoiding beginning to do something. And why do I say avoiding beginning to do something? Because when you're sitting down and you're supposed to be reading, for example, and you find the urge to take a nap first, to make coffee first, to make a phone call first, to go on Facebook for just 10 minutes, telling yourself that as soon as you finish doing those things that you enjoy, you'll start reading. This is avoiding beginning to read. Now, I say beginning again because once you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, it becomes much easier to stay on task. The hard part is to begin. And people come up with all sorts of excuses for not beginning. At the same time, in the back of their minds, they're thinking, I know I'm wasting time. I know I shouldn't be doing this. So what do? I'm going to show you a video, a classic video, famous video from YouTube, of somebody who is a master of procrastination.